Hello, this is Michael Williams, and I'm here once again doing an interview with one of my clients, Mr. Chirag. Chirag, thank you so much for being willing to do this interview. Many people are not willing because of privacy issues, and I understand that, but I always try to encourage my clients to share their story because it's so important. It gives people hope. It lets people know the real deal. I haven't coached you to tell you what to say. I want you to tell the truth and tell people your true experience going through this process.
Sure. Thank you, Michael, for having me here. And I'm really happy to share my experience with the world. So my journey started like 3 years ago when I graduated from my master's program. And at that time, things were going as per the plan. I got a job, and before that I was an intern, and at job I was an associate. So there was no high hopes from me. So the only thing for me was to do my job. But once I came out of the associate world, that's where the real world started. That's when I had to prove myself competitively that I'm a good employee and I'm eligible for promotions and I can be a good manager. But I see that my colleagues who were with me as an associate, I see them getting some advantage and moving forward just because they were having better communication skills. And that's where I started to realize and feel the pitch where I should start improving my communication skills to be considered for similar positions. And my first step was, like for many other things, I go to Google, I go to YouTube, and that's where I stumble upon your videos. And I could see the way you were explaining the reasons why what is happening, and that reasoning was something which triggered me that, all right, and I think now it's a time to contact you and join the course.
Right. So I want to dig in a little bit more with your background. You're originally from India, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now you reside here in the U.S. Tell me a little bit about growing up and entering into the workforce and even going through school as a person that struggled with stuttering. What was that like?
So I was a bit ashamed at first, and I was not stuttering since my childhood. I think there was an incident which happened when I was in 6th grade, and I think that could be the reason I started to stutter. And since I was in the same school, I already had friends. So one of the incidents I would say is that in India, I don't know if it's here, but in school, the teacher will call your roll number so that you have to announce that yes ma'am or present ma'am to say that you are present in the class. So at that time, it was like my roll number was 48. And just that anticipation that 46, yes ma'am, 47, yes ma'am, 48, I was like so panicked I couldn't speak. So my friend used to cover for me and they used to speak on my behalf. And initially people used to laugh at it. But people were my friends, and I was kind of like popular just because of my other activities. So it didn't really matter much to me. Then in 11th, 12th grade, I changed the school. It affected, but not much, because I knew that after 11th, I'm going to go to 12th. After 12th, I'm going to enter first year, second year. Everything was gradual. But once I'm out of associate program, there's nothing gradual. Everything is based on merit. And that's the difference, what really triggered me joining this course.
Yeah. And when we first met, I remembered that you spoke really fast, right? It was really, really fast. And a lot of the people that I work with, that's like their number one thing, their number one challenge is speaking fast, chopping off their words, speaking in a very choppy manner. how in the world were you able to manage that and to kind of overcome it now? Because you're obviously not speaking that way now.
Yes. So, from one of the first classes we had, you mentioned, I think it was one of the first feedbacks you gave me, and that was to speak slower and uh, to elongate the words, or like to think when I'm speaking, and to speak in a slower pace. And because I trusted you, I started to follow those feedback, and I could see that uh, I would say 80% of the time my speech was much more smoother, just because I used to speak slower and didn't used to chop my words. So that itself helped me 80%, just that one thing.
Just the one thing. And of course, people tell people who struggle with stuttering all the time, well, slow down, slow down. And they say, well, if I could slow down, I would, right? So how was it? What was it that you and I did? What was it that you did every day that allowed you to actually begin to slow your speech down, extend your words more? What were some of the things you did that helps you to do that?
Sure. So I agree with you. Like, uh, people know that we have to speak slow, but it's just that, you know, there are some exercises which are required. And few of the exercises or the regimens which you told me to follow and which I did was, one was to reinforce the message. Like, when I wake up and before I go to sleep, is like reinforcing that I speak well. Like, those were the three affirmations. Like, I speak well, I'm a good speaker, and third one was, I guess, something else. So those three affirmations were there. And then the second thing was, I tried to model. Uh, After watching your videos, I used to model like you. So just modeling you, it it just helped me to change the way my original way of speaking was, and I patented before you. So what the way you used to speak, I try to imitate that. And the third was to to be more conscious when I speak, to be more aware that I have to speak slow. I have to model like you to be more slower than I was before.
Yeah, yeah. And that is such a challenge for some people. Sometimes people, uh, the main problem is not that they don't know what to do, it's that they often don't remind themselves to do it, or they don't follow the regimen, or they don't follow it every day. I remember you used to tell me that walking to work, you would listen to the audios, which is a part of the process, right? It's a part of the immersion process. You were listening to the audios, you would practice throughout the day, and this was something that you did each and every day while you were walking to work and while you were walking home. And that, and we see the results, right? And when people don't do that, then we don't see the results.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So the modeling part, did you find it was difficult for you to model me when you were having your daily conversations with, say, your wife or with your coworkers? Was that hard to do? Was it easy to do?
Um, with the coworkers, no. With wife, yes, because one thing was, with my wife, I speak my regional language in India, while with my coworkers, it was the same language. So modeling at that point was much more easier as compared to my wife, because with her I'd speak different language, and those rules which were binded with those modeling were not applicable at that point. So that was much more harder. I tried to do it when I was conscious, but mostly when I'm home, I'm like more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the time when I struggle, and I think I mentioned that feedback to you.
Yeah. So how has your speech then improved with your wife, and why?
Yes.
And why has it improved then?
So it improved lately. After you gave me feedback, to be more conscious and to replicate that modeling even while at home. And one thing I noticed was, as I mentioned, I was more relaxed, so I was not conscious. And when I was not conscious, I used to speak faster.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made myself conscious, I used to speak slow, and then the fluency came back. It was more smoother.
So there it is. How did you make yourself conscious, and why? I mean, I tell people this all the time, and sometimes they just don't make themselves conscious. How did you make yourself conscious?
It was the desire to be a good speaker, to be an excellent speaker, and it was the affirmations which were helping at that time, because repeating those affirmations for months imbibed those things in my brain as a subconscious thing, saying that I'm an excellent speaker. If I'm an excellent speaker, then it automatically routed saying that I have to speak slow because I'm an excellent speaker.
Okay, okay. Now you've had some pretty good experiences since going through this program, or while going through it. Tell me about a couple of those experiences. One was a forum that you had to speak in, plus you had some other speaking opportunities and meetings, and then I guess a third one would be social activities where you've been able to do some things that you didn't do before. So tell us about those.
Yes. So my primary thing was definitely, and then of course to be comfortable to be with my friends and family, because I can speak well. So at my work there was a forum, and I was invited as a panelist, where the audience were supposed to ask me questions. There was a moderator who will ask me questions, and I have to answer that. So I spoke to you about it. You gave me some tips, and especially about presentation videos, modules, where we prepared with what questions may be asked and have a few answers, like in your brain, like remember those. So I did that, and I internally felt it really went good. And later on, I was approached by the moderator to again represent my entire department in another seminar which was held within the firm. So that proved that what I did was good, and I got another opportunity to speak. Now, with my friends, earlier when I was in a group, I used to avoid speaking, because when I'm in a group, I have to raise my voice, and I have a fear of stuttering. But after going through the course, I became much more confident, and I could raise my voice or speak out. If I had a joke, I could crack it, just because I was now more confident.
Excellent, excellent. And I think I may have missed the part where you talked about some of the meetings, because it froze up for just a second. But how has this helped you with your meetings with your bosses?
So I'm a member of multiple teams, just because the way my role is in the firm, and I have to attend different group meetings, and sometimes I cannot go to each and every meeting, so I just join in the conference call. So earlier I used to when I have to say hello, this is Chirag, it's just that this never came out. So as soon as I joined the conference call, people used to ask me like, who is this? And Chirag. So it was stuttering. But what happened was, after this class, it became much more smoother, and like, hey, this is Chirag. I became more proactive rather than being afraid. I was confidently say, hey, this is Chirag, like, I'm in the meeting now.
I'm here, yeah. Excellent, excellent. Now, there are people that watch these videos, and you and I will come back together 6 months from now, right? Because there are people that watch these videos and go, oh, well, he just completed the course. Of course he's speaking well, but people relapse after they go through these kinds of trainings, right? For whatever reason. And some people might say, oh, well, he never stuttered, or he didn't stutter that bad, right? So what would you say to them if they said, oh, he never really stuttered, or, well, he didn't stutter that bad?
Can you repeat that question again?
Yeah. There will be people who will be watching this video, and they will say, looking at you now, well, he never really stuttered, or he never really stuttered that bad. So what would you say to them?
if people think like that, then I think it will be the biggest compliment I could get.
Okay. Right. You said something to me in the very beginning that impressed me, and when you joined the course, you went ahead and paid in full for the whole thing. And you and I were having a discussion. I don't remember all the details. We were having a discussion about investing in yourself. I don't know if you kind of remember that, and how important it is. And there are people out there who are struggling. They're working, they feel limited, they're having some of the same issues that you are, that everyone else does, that I work with. They have the money, right, because they spend the money on other stuff like vacations and TVs and cars and stuff, but they don't want to invest in themselves. Maybe they feel like it's not going to work. That they don't know who I am. They're like, okay, if I give this guy all this money, is this really going to work? And so they're afraid. Or maybe they just don't see the value in investing in themselves. What would you say to them about that?
I'm a believer that when you invest in yourself, it all pays off. Now, I can give an example, like for people who think like that is when I joined the program, and I improved my speaking skills, and I just gave an interview somewhere else in some other company, and I got 60% raise in that interview. I didn't join that company just because it was not the role I wanted, but it just gave me a confidence and that was my goal of starting to interview, just to know that the skills I'm working in the company is relevant out in the market. That reinforced the idea, but the thing here to notice is I got a 60% raise. That includes like cash bonus and like a sign-in bonus and so on. So the point is that the program pays for itself. So I think communication is one skill which changes the perception what people have about you. And it's very important to have a good speaking skill. It's one of the primary things. So for people, if you can cut back on other expenses and you can invest in your own speech, the program will pay for itself.
Yeah. So I think, my last question to you was, what would you tell people who are thinking about investing in the coaching or even in the self-study? I recommend the self-study for people that are unsure, they want to try it out, they want to get started, or for people that live in places where they simply cannot afford the coaching, do the self-study. But what would you tell people that are watching this video that are thinking about joining the Pro90d program, be it the coaching or self-study, and they're just not sure? What could you say to them? I know you've already said a lot, but what would you say?
So my feeling would be it's always good to have a tutor for anything, and especially when it comes to skill set. So I also play soccer on the side, and I have no idea about soccer. So I don't have a coach for that, but because that's recreational. I'm also learning to play guitar. That's also recreational. So if it's okay if I don't have a coach for it, but speech is something which is really, it's as equally important as your face. Like, you do shave, you wash your face, also you apply cream to it, just because that's, people make a perception. Similarly, your speech also makes a perception. So it's very important to have that guidance which tells you and which also keeps you on track, because if you do by yourself, and trust me, when I was in college, I was like many of the viewers right now, I never wanted to stutter, and I used to make attempts not to stutter. But when you have a coach who tells you that this is the way you do and this will work, and when you follow that, you have this trust and you have this confidence that you, within a set period of time, you can make a difference. And that's where the coach comes into a picture. And so it's very important to have a coach to keep you on track.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm gonna end it there, man. Awesome advice. Thank you so much for your candor, and once again for being willing to do this. This is really, really good. Thank you, Chirag. I appreciate it, man.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I'm gonna check back with you in I mean, I'll be checking back with you periodically anyway, but definitely in 6, 7, 8 months, we're going to get back together, do another interview, and I think you'll find if you continue to do what you're doing now that your speech will actually be better. That's what I'm finding. So
Sure. Thank you. Yeah.
thank you.
I would like to keep in touch with you too.